Yo, new year, new worlds, new top 20 list. From now on, we're gonna do this in English so more people can hear my wrong opinions. We got my list right here and the official list right there. And we're gonna start right off with Uzi at number 1 for them. That was a very big surprise for me. Especially because it was unanimous. Everyone seems to think that Uzi is like the best player at Worlds. I think that's pretty bold. Let's start with this. I think Uzi has been overrated for a while. He is really good. This year, especially, it's his best year in my opinion. But he's not the best AD carry in the world. And not even at this tournament, in my opinion. The reason is his entire playstyle, or his team's playstyle, I should say, is revolved around him. Like everything is made for him to carry, if that makes sense. Like if you switch him with, I don't know, Ruler or Deft or something, I don't think that would be like the team would perform worse. Obviously they would at first, but from the raw skill perspective, I don't think that would make such a difference. Yeah, I don't get it. Like I have Rookie at number 1. And I expected Rookie to be number 1 for the official list as well. I expected Uzi to be a 2 or maybe a 3 even, with score ahead. That's just because Rookie's, in my opinion, obviously by far the best LPL player. By far. That's like, it's not even close. If you watch his games, like it looks like he's straight up smurfing there. It's it's fucking ridiculous. But for some reason, they think Uzi is a lot better. I have Uzi really high as well, in my opinion. But as I said, yeah, I think the team's playstyle is the reason Uzi looks so good. Like, he can't do anything wrong, if that makes sense. Like, if he fucks up, if he has a bad game, you can always blame it on everyone else, because they are all kind of supports in that sense. Like, Uzi's the only real player in that team, and everyone else is just supporting him. And first of all, I don't really like that playstyle, but Royal shows that this can work. They got better and better at it every year, and this year they look really dangerous. But if you just compare Uzi's and Rookie's stats, Rookie has like better stats or equal stats in almost every category with a way lower gold share. My number 2 is Marta, and this is one of the few very big differences between my list and their list. They have Marta at 13, and I don't really quite understand. Like, for me, Marta's, first of all, he's obviously the best support of all time, and he's currently the best support in the world, if you ask me. He's like the most vocal person in KT. Like, he orchestrates that team. Even if he's not shot calling, he's giving the most input at any time. You can always see him talk in the player camps and shit like that. Apart from that, I think he's an insanely good shot caller. The only one who can, like, comes even close to ambition in terms of late game shot calling, if you ask me. Like, seriously, the only one who's even close. He obviously has a very big champion pool. He can play almost anything. Engage supports are really good right now. He's the best Alistar in the world, and he's gonna carry a lot of games, if you ask me. But yeah, most importantly, he's coordinating that star team, and that's one of the most important positions in a team, if you ask me. He's like Draymond Green in Golden State, if you're watching the NBA. And that's actually a pretty good comparison, because KT is full of star players. At number 3 on both our lists is Score. I kind of had a feeling I'm overrating him a little, but he's just insanely solid. He's the most solid jungler in the world. Like, if you pick him, you can be sure he's not going to suck, like 100%. And that's really important, especially in a team like that. So yeah, that's why it's really high. Number 4 is a curveball, in my opinion. I have Keen at number 4 as well, but he's not proven on the international stage. He's a rookie, technically, and he's kind of like Khan last year. But yeah, he's insanely good. He's the best top laner in the world right now. Number 5, we got Ruler. For some reason, 4, 5, and 6 are the same on both our lists. Even though this year's list is like way different than mine compared to the last year and the year before that. But yeah, Ruler, in my opinion, the best AD carry at the tournament. He's for sure, if you ask me, the best two-way ADC right now. You can put him on carries, you can put him on utility, doesn't really matter, he's gonna perform. Uzi is obviously a better laner, but in my opinion that's it. Everything else I'd take Ruler over Uzi anytime. Number 6 is Smep. Top lane is really stacked this tournament, especially from the Korean side. You can see I've got the 3 Korean top laners at 4, 6 and 7. Yeah, Smep obviously still stands out compared to the rest of the world. Sick team around him, so obviously big expectations. He's maybe the best top lane of all time. And if you think about it, it's kind of insane that KT aren't the favorites for this tournament, or not like the unanimous favorites at least. Then there's Swordart at number 7. And I really like that. I have him really high as well, but I can't really agree with that. First of all, what I said before, you're placing him above Marta, which is... The thing is, like, Marta plays against way stronger competition than Swordart. Swordart is really insanely important for his team, of course. And that's one of the... Actually, it's the only criteria that I don't use for my list. I don't care how important you are for your team. Like, that's one of the reasons Bjergsen always gets overrated. He's insanely good. He's maybe the best Western player of all time, but you just can't put him higher than other players who are better than him just because he's the only carry or the best player in his team by far. Like, Swordart isn't even by far the best player, but he's the most important. He has a similar role for Flash Wolves as Marta for KT, but he's just not quite there, in my opinion. There are stronger players over him, in my opinion. But yeah, I really like that he's placed high on their list as well. Just because, well, LMS always gets underrated. And Flash Wolves really look good with him. And we saw what Flash Wolves looked like without him. And that was not beautiful. My number 7 is QV. I think QV is a really solid top. He's kind of the score of the top lane, if you ask me. In the video about the World's Top 20 with Deficio, Jet and Papa Smithy, they talked about QV not being really good this summer, and Gen.G kind of gets overlooked, if you ask me. Like, I know that you want to say this is the best team, or this is the favorite to win the tournament. This year, that's like that's impossible to say. Like, 4 teams had the exact same record in matches. Only map difference, but like, you can clearly see how competitive this year in the LCK was. I think last year was already insane, but this year was crazy. Like, for me, it's no upset that Gen.G went to Worlds, even though they were the lowest seed with SKT in the gauntlet. They were just as likely to go in that sense as Griffin or Kingzone, or SKT even. I mean, SKT not really, but then again, Gen.G also needed 5 games to win against SKT, so SKT is not weak either. I think SKT would have probably placed first in any other league, even in this form. Like, you can say obviously that because there's no clear favorite, that just everyone is worse, but they could also all be better. Like, I don't know. I feel like this year's a lot like Season 3. So yeah, I think QV, as the entirety of Gen.G actually, really blooms in this clutch situations, like last year as well, even though that was mostly Crown stepping up after a slump, and then he went back to slumping right after Worlds. But yeah, QV kind of similar. I don't think he was that bad, or as bad as it sounds when they talked about him, but he wasn't insanely good. Like, he wasn't the QV you saw at Worlds last year, that's for sure. But yeah, I think, and that's like one of the more important criteria in my opinion, how he's going to perform at Worlds, and I think he's going to be really good. At number 8, they got Ming. I see him in the same boat as Uzi, just because, I don't know, it's the same reason actually. Just the way this team plays, it's just hard. First of all, Chinese players always are way harder to judge in terms of skill than any other region actually. Just because of the style of play there, the meta game, if you want to call it like that. It's not about the picks or shit like that, it's about how they approach the game. They are so insanely aggressive, they always chase for kills first. Like, if you compare Korean playstyle to Chinese playstyle, Koreans just wait for you to make a mistake and then get a teamfight or objective. Chinese want to force mistakes from the enemy team. And that can backfire really easily. You can see, or you will probably see this at Worlds from IG especially. They are insanely good early game. They are like shitting all over the enemies. Especially in China, as I said, Rookie is like smurfing there. He's just shitting all over the enemy mid laner, and then he's gonna carry 1v9. And that's kind of their playstyle. But that won't work as well against Koreans, I think. I mean, whatever. Ming is just, as I said, it's just a part of this RNG machine. I don't think he's that good. Of course, I have him at 12, which is still really good, but it's not comparable to Mata, in my opinion. Okay, at number 8, I got Deft. I think he's a little bit better than Uzi. Apart from laning, where I see Uzi slightly ahead. But that's all there is to it. I still think probably Genji's or KT's bot lane is stronger than RNG's, just in terms of overall skill, not laning. At number 9, we got Caps for their list. Yeah, I'm smirking a little because that's another bigger topic I want to talk about. It tackles what Deficio, I think, said at the end of the video, where they were talking about how difficult it is to make such a list. And he's saying that because of the results of the different teams, it's harder to evaluate how good Western players are. Because mechanically, obviously, there's not really much of a difference. You're not genetically just better because you're Asian or some shit like that. That doesn't work this way. The difference is in culture, and that's one of the reasons I got way more Koreans in my list. You could obviously just place all the top Koreans and then the Chinese in the list in that order, just from their teams, but that's also not how it works. It's just difficult to evaluate their skill because they are so much better as a team, of course. The thing is, Koreans individually are also better. That's why my list looks so Korean fanboy-y. It's just the way they think, their mentality, their infrastructure. They are all like way more competitive. Like if you play in Korea, in the LCK, and you're competing for Worlds or for the LCK Championship, you're training every day, really, really fucking hard, and in your free time you're gonna play solo queue until you go to sleep. It's not like that in the US, or especially in the US or in China. It's not like that either, I think. Their coaching stuff is better. You're playing a lot more, I guess, and that's why these players are better on an individual level as well, not just as a team. Like, there are Koreans on Chinese teams and North American teams and shit like that. And you can see, that's like for me the best example for this. Look at someone like Ryu or Someday or Flame. People who were like the best in the world, or competing with the best, or close to being the best in the world in their position. And they go to NA and suddenly they suck. It's not like they are just getting worse for no reason. They're getting worse because of the infrastructure. The coaching is worse. They're not like competing as hard. They are not being forced to play as much. Shit like that. It's just my guess. I don't really know that. I don't have that input like every other analyst has. But that's how I think it is. There must be a reason for this, right? So yeah, let's continue. I don't have Caps that high. I think he's individually really fucking good. He's like the next Bjergsen. He's probably better than Bjergsen ever was already, but I don't think he's better than Eukil, for example. I think he's comparable to him. They also got like severely different playstyles, but I don't think he's better than Kuro. I don't know. I think because of the difference in playstyle, you couldn't make the assumption that Caps is better. Similar to Uzi, or the reason I am placing Uzi a lot lower than Riot does, in terms of playing towards a certain player. Or for a certain player, if you want. Okay, my number 9 is Uzi. I think I already said enough about him. At number 10, they got QV. Also, not really much to add. I got Sword Art. Number 11, they got Kasa there. I think Kasa is really good. Only reason he's lower is because people at Deft and Mata are higher on my list. I got Kuro there. He got really good in Africa. When Kuro was with Rox, he was always the weak link. Like, Rox is one of those. It's actually the old KT, if you want. Or they were Longzhu before Longzhu. If that makes sense. But yeah, he was not that consistent. I mean, actually, he was kind of consistent, but I don't know, for me he was always the Korean Pobelter, if that makes sense. He wasn't like really insanely good, he would have his place, but other than that he would just be the boring, consistent but not as good version of other mid laners. But since he's with Afrika, he really stepped up his game, and I think he's really good. Number 12, they got Deft, and then 13 Mata. I already talked about those. Ming and Kasa already like crossed off as well, I guess. So at 14, oh, we both have the same again. And that's the Shy. Another Korean player playing in the LPL. He's a top laner. Insanely talented, but... Okay, here's the deal with people like the Shy. He didn't get to play as much. I think Duke played more in the summer split than he did. But when he plays, he's like dominate lane, win game style player. Like sometimes Rookie and him would just kill their lane opponents over and over and just snowball the game off of that. And that's kind of the game plan for some of the games. I don't know if that will work, but we will see. He could be really fucking good. At number 15, pardon me, they got Maple. Yeah, I really like Maple. I don't think he's like that insanely good as he's like hyped. Like the Flash Wolves are getting a lot of hype, and it seems like a lot of people think that, or a lot of people have been thinking that the Flash Wolves are like the only really good team in the LMS, that the region is really top heavy. I mean, they are the best team from there, and they have been for a really long time right now, but the rest of the region isn't that trash. I think this year they are not as top heavy as Europe, or especially NA, of course. I saw some mistakes, especially in the Galio game, in the finals, but he's certainly back to his original form, and that is really good. I got him at 19, by the way. So I got Haru at number 15. That's like my dark horse pick, you could say. Haru was really fucking good in spring last year. He was by far the best ranger in the world. And then he dropped off. Like really hard. And Ambition kind of came in to save the day. But in the Gauntlet this year, Ambition played, I think, 2 games. And then Haru stepped in and carried the shit out of some of these games. He played for the rest of the Gauntlet 10, 13 games, I think. So he played 11. And he was insane. And the current meta is going towards carry junglers or playmaking junglers. And Haru is really fucking good with them. Like his Lee Sin and stuff like that looked insane. The only reason I'm not placing him higher is because, sure, it was more than one best of 5, but before that we didn't see him at all. So I don't know if he can like keep up that performance. I hope he does, but we will see. I don't know why they didn't like think of him. They had him in their honorable mentions, or at least Papa Smithy talked about him really quick, but I don't know if they like didn't pay attention to him as much, but I think he was insanely good. Like for me, there's a chance he's the best jungler at this tournament, but we will see. I don't know. Number 16, they got Kuro. Said everything about that already. I got Yukel there. I don't really want it to Yukel to be like the worst in his team, if that makes sense, but the rest is like way more experienced. Yukel is the youngest player at the tournament, I think. He's born in 2001. Yeah, he's a rookie, of course, so there's your reason for him being the lowest. He came in as a sub for Pawn. He used to be a Taliyah one-trick in solo queue, where he was insanely good. But then Taliyah got fucked in the ass by Riot. Thank you for that. I am a Taliyah player as well, and I don't play her anymore because I'm a mid laner. Fuck you. But yeah, it's really good. I got him at 16. They got it at 19, so not much of a difference actually. Then they got Zhao at 17. They got so many mid laners there. What the fuck? 5 mid laners in a row. That's crazy. I wanted to put Zhao into the top 20 because I think Zhao might actually be better than Uzi. Like, you sometimes see these Reddit posts about insane team fights or shit by Uzi. And then I see them and it's actually just Zhao setting Uzi up with Galio or some shit. Like it's... I don't know. I think Zhao doesn't get enough credit for his supportive playstyle that he adapted. Like he used to be a carry and he was insanely overrated last year in my opinion in the World Top 20. But I think he got a lot better now. I don't know. I just like his supportive style more. He's more consistent with that. And it works really well in that RNG machine I talked about earlier. I got Caps at 17. I think that's where he belongs. He's like slightly worse than Yuka. He's obviously the carry for his team, so I can understand why they put him higher because of their criteria of how important someone is for their team. But I don't use that criteria, so I think it makes sense that he's at 17 in my list. At 18 they got Scout, another player I really wanted to add, but just wasn't enough. I got Core JJ at 18. That's a player I think they kinda overlooked. Not really overlooked. This is the first year where I don't feel like someone got overlooked. Like Ruler last year wasn't even in the honorable mentions of anyone, I think. I'm not too sure, but he wasn't in the top 20, I think. Meanwhile, I had him at like, I don't know, 8 or something, or 9. But yeah, Core JJ, it's really solid. As I said, Gen G is like better than people give them credit for. I don't know how that happened, because last year as well, like there was the series where Faker just demolished Crown in the summer playoffs and Samsung just flew out of the tournament. But then they got their shit together in the gauntlet. I think that Samsung looked better this year in the summer than they looked last year in the summer. And they got this insane gauntlet run in which they looked like the best team in the world, if you ask me. It was 3 best of 5s against some of the best teams in the world. Like, apart from SKT maybe, all of these teams deserve to go to Worlds, and all of them would easily make the semifinals. Like, it actually wouldn't matter which of these 5 top teams from the LCK would go. They got Ukel at 19, I got Maple there. Yeah, I think I talked about why I placed Maple a little lower, but yeah, he's obviously really good. Then there's Double Lift at 20. I don't really understand that, because like people were already memeing before the list came out that Double Lift would be at 20 or something to appease to the NA fans. The weird thing about that is, I get that he got the MVP and shit like that, but honestly, Someday is the best player in the NALCS. I mean, whatever, but yeah, he's obviously not in my list. I got Crown at 20. That's probably surprising for anyone who followed the LCK. But then again, it's a similar situation with Haru, because Crown and Haru just played out of their mind in that gauntlet run. I'm expecting them to keep that form. I may be overrating them a little, and you will possibly see that in the next video where I'm gonna do my power rankings and my predictions. They just got these clutch performers and this World Championship experience. And I'm expecting a lot. So yeah, Crown is on my list. Didn't make an honorable mentions this time. There are a lot of players that would be there, like Tusin and Kramer. And Someday, as I said, Scout, Johu obviously as well. But this list was insanely hard to make, and I didn't want to bother with who to put in the honorable mentions. So screw that. We're done with this. You can check out my predictions video. There's gonna be a link somewhere. And hopefully I get it out before World Start. It's in 3.5 hours, so no, I'm not. Dude, these stats are like... What the... Okay, fuck this shit. We're gonna cut all of this out.